Ready to go, Dave?
I think so.
Okay. Good. Thank you and good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us for the 2021 Budget Open House. I will begin by introducing you to the council members in attendance today. Councillor Richard Barkwell, Councillor Aaron Carlson, Councillor Aaron Trainer, and Councillor Doug Holmes are with us today, as well as our new Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Graham Statt. As you may be aware, the district is proposing a 1.65% property tax increase. Welcome, Councillor Marty Van Elfen. Following a few minutes with CAO Stat, Mr. David Svetlichny, the district's Director of Finance, will be presenting information on the proposed increase. Before I turn this over to Graham, you might be interested to hear that back in the fall when Dave first received budgets from each district department, we were about $1.4 million over allocated. Clearly, he was not going to bring that to council. A combination of the unexpected provincial COVID restart grant and a determined effort by the senior management team allowed Dave to bring forward a budget showing less than 1/10 of the original deficit. They accomplished this without reducing service levels and without compromising council priorities. On behalf of council, I thank you, Graham, and your team for your work in helping us bring forward a proposed property tax increase of under 2%. We recognize that this was not an easy task. And now over to you, Graham. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll also just thank everybody for attending today's virtual financial plan open house, or indeed, if you're watching the recording at a later time, thank you for making the time to do so. Today's presentation is being delivered through Zoom and will also be available to the public through this recording and uploaded onto the district's website for those that are unable to attend virtually today. As today's format is web-based, all attendees' computers will be muted for the duration of the presentation. At the conclusion of this afternoon's open house, all attendees will have an opportunity to ask questions related to the financial plan being presented today. Additionally, members of the public are encouraged to provide their feedback on the 2021 to 2025 financial plan by noon of February 15th. With the housekeeping items out of the way, we'll now begin today's virtual open house. I'll get you to change to the next slide there, Dave. So I wanted to start off with a couple of slides today just to set the context, and then I'll pass things over to Dave for his more detailed comments. As the Chief Administrative Officer of the District of Summerland, it is my job to make sure that administration delivers on the vision of council for the community. On this slide, you can see the key strategic priorities identified by council from the period from 2019 to 2022. On here, we have infrastructure investment and the associated life cycle management of the district's capital assets. There are also the aspirations of good governance and community reliance. Next, we see the priority of alternative energy, both to enhance our sustainability, but also to potentially bring in new forms of revenue. Finally, there is the quality of life elements for the residents of Summerland, such as supporting healthy, active living and community vibrancy. Together, these elements provide administration the roadmap we follow in the preparation of our advice, not only on the budget, but all our actions and activities. This slide takes those strategic headings I mentioned on the previous slide, and it bundles key projects and initiatives under each one. So here we see how administration operationalizes the direction of council. For example, under the infrastructure investment column, we see the Issentalk Dam upgrades. So this is an example of a key project that is underway that supports this part of council's vision. Other items, such as the solar and battery project, are under the alternative energy column. As you know, these projects and even the associated strategic directives themselves are not written in stone. From time to time, things will be added or amended at the direction of council to stay current and relevant to the needs of the community. Of course, as new items are added, operational pressures are created, which in turn requires either a rejuggling of priorities or new resources to implement them. The budget conversation is a great opportunity to reaffirm the work of administration or to provide course corrections in our work. And with that, I will turn it over to Dave Svetlichny, our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Graham. Prior to getting into the details of the 2021 budget, just some quick fact appetizers to whet the palate. The district's consolidated operational budget is $38.3 million with an additional $21 million budgeted for capital. This consolidated amount includes all four of the district's funds: water, sewer, electric, and general. In total, overall budgeted spending is proposed at $59.3 million in 2021. Looking at general fund operations, the proposed budget is planning for revenues and expenditures of $16.7 million in 2021. 60%, or $10 million of these expenditures, are funded through taxation. The proposed budget also includes use of $579,451 of the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant. And we'll talk more about this further on in the presentation. Additionally, as a point of note, a 1% increase in taxation revenue generates approximately $91,900 to cover operational expenditures. The electric utility does contribute $500,000 annually to the general fund operational revenues. That would equate in a 5.4% tax rate increase if that transfer was not made. And finally, the district has approximately 110 employees. These include all full-time, part-time staff. So I just want to make sure you all see the two pie charts right now. A nod of the head would be good. Perfect. So as we touched on in the previous slide, district operations are differentiated into four distinct funds. Each fund provides services to residents and collects revenues to offset operational costs. The four funds are the water fund, the electrical fund, the sewer fund, and the general fund. Today's presentation will focus on the general fund, as the three utilities were discussed at great length at the December 7th, 2020 Utilities Open House. For anyone who missed the Utilities Open House and wishes to see it, a recorded version is available on the district's website. The pie chart on the left provides a breakdown of all revenue sources budgeted in the general fund for 2021. Total revenues are budgeted at $16.7 million, and as the chart shows, approximately 78% of all general fund revenues are generated from either taxation or user fees, which is quite common for municipalities. The 78% is made up of property taxes, solid waste user fees, recreation service user fees, and sales of service. On the expense side, the district is required to have a balanced budget. Therefore, budgeted operational expenses are also $16.7 million. The pie chart on the right provides a breakdown of the 9 distinct functions the district uses for providing services in the general fund. Each function is further broken down into cost centers, which are used for tracking expenses. An example of this is protective services. The protective services function overall has a budget expense of $3.25 million. Now, this is further broken down into 6 cost centers. The RCMP has a budget of $1.59 million. Fire, 1.06 million. Emergency measures, 155,000. Building inspection, 224,000. Bylaw enforcement, 155,000. And animal control, 73,000. All 6 of those cost centers added up equate to $3.25 million for protective services. So each of the 9 functions in this pie chart have similar detailed cost centers associated with them. As the pie chart notes, the district's most expensive function is protective services at $3.25 million. And our least expensive function is cemetery at $98,800. As we noted in the previous slide, 2021 general fund revenues are budgeted at $16.7 million. Some items of note include 2021 non-market change or new construction revenue is estimated at $132,500. In order to move the solid waste function to a more cost-neutral matrix, budgeted revenues have increased by $429,265 in this area. The solid waste function includes the landfill, garbage, and recycling cost centers, and we will discuss these budgeted revenue increases in much more detail in the following slides. The district is proposing to utilize $319,451 of the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant to offset operational increases. We are also planning on utilizing another $260,000 of those funds for capital as well. We'll discuss the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant again in further detail as we move along in this presentation. As noted previously, a 1% tax rate increase right now provides the district with approximately $91,895 in additional taxation revenues. And as a final note, council has directed staff to review parks and recreation fees in 2021 and provide recommendations which could potentially impact revenues in the later part of 2021, depending on if or when council wishes to implement any increases. In many jurisdictions, landfill operations and their related diversion streams are treated like their own utility, with those users utilizing the service paying for the service. Historically, the District of Summerland landfill has run in a deficit position, requiring subsidization from property taxes. Staff and council believe that, like other jurisdictions, the operation of the Summerland landfill should be treated like a utility, with the goal of no longer requiring subsidization from property taxes in the future. In order to move the landfill closer to being cost neutral, the 2021 budget includes additional revenues of $429,265 attributed directly to this service. One of the main reasons the district generates compost at the landfill is to utilize biosolids generated from the sewer treatment plant. If not for this need, the district could theoretically dispose of these biosolids at a third-party facility, thereby negating the need for composting operations altogether. The budget to run the composting program in 2021 is budgeted at approximately $117,000. Therefore, as the main reason for composting is to utilize the biosolids, council has proposed that the sewer utility should cover the cost of running the composting program. As these are 2 distinct funds, this decision will provide the landfill with additional tipping fee revenues of $117,000, while the sewer utility will have an offsetting expense for sludge removal. Monthly curbside collection fees are proposed to increase by $2.35 starting March 1st, 2021. The reason for this increase is twofold. Firstly, the district's garbage collection and scale operation contracts have increased since last year. As these contractual increases are directly attributed to curbside collection, they should be borne by the users. This portion of the increase equates to 67 cents monthly of that increase. The second reason for the increase goes back to the district's philosophical transition in moving the solid waste function to a more user pay system. In order to move closer to being cost neutral, an additional monthly increase of $1.68 was required. And I would like to highlight that this additional revenue was required to balance the overall operational budget. Had council not chosen to increase the monthly collection fee, then they would have had to increase taxes over the proposed 1.65% for 2021 in order to balance this budget. One final note on this line item is that council has included funding for 2 unlimited yard waste events in 2021. Now, also effective March 1st, the district will be increasing general refuse and mixed demo tipping fees by 5%, as well as increasing the monthly multifamily collection fee by 5%. These changes are anticipated to generate approximately $35,000 in additional revenue. A final measure, and again, effective March 1st, 2021, the district is implementing tipping fees for whitewood at $65 a metric ton, as well as charging for all green wood coming into the landfill. These 2 measures are projected to increase revenues by $151,750. So as we can see, a lot of changes in regards to the landfill in order to move towards more user pay system. The district received $2.724 million in funding from the COVID-19 Restart Grant in November of 2020 to help offset increased operational costs and budgeted revenue shortfalls due to the ongoing pandemic. When the funding announcement first became public, there was a rush of ideas on how the funds should be utilized. Internally, there was a bit of confusion on how the eligibility criteria should be interpreted. And based on comments we have received from the public, there's a lot of misconception publicly as well. The district has been in communications with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs over the past months to ensure the district is correctly following the eligibility requirements. One example of this dialogue was when council moved a motion to waive municipal business license fees for 2021. Council had originally wanted to utilize the COVID-19 Restart Grant to offset the lost $150,000 in business license revenues that were budgeted. Upon discussions with the ministry, the district was informed that we could not use the COVID-19 grant for this, as the business license fee was a pre-established fee well before the pandemic and did not constitute a fiscal or operational pressure facing the district. With these facts in hand, council, who still wanted to provide financial assistance to the business community, used reserves to fund the lost revenues. Whoops. How do I go back? I don't know how to go back. One additional public misconception is that the district can utilize the COVID grant to lower and or eliminate tax and rate increases. Again, in consultation with the ministry, the district was advised that because the grant funds are to address fiscal and operational pressures facing the district, use of the funds to pay directly for capital or to reduce business or residential tax rates was not supported by the ministry. So council discussed the funding at their November 17th utility budget meeting and supported a combination of historical recapture and forward-thinking approaches in utilizing these funds. The forward-thinking approach is just that, to look forward. Early indications so far in 2021 are that the district will not rebound from COVID-related revenue losses in 2021, possibly not until 2023. Public health orders limit the ability for residents to access services, and in some instances, like adult sports, deny any access whatsoever. These restrictions limit the district's revenue, and without any financial support would increase the overall taxation subsidy required to keep facilities and programs running. The overall premise behind the forward-thinking approach is to retain a portion of the grant funds to be used in the future to offset a portion of these unquantifiable losses. The historical recapture approach is based on addressing increased costs and revenue losses from 2020. This grant provides for the ability to cover lost revenues due to COVID, and the following slide will provide some details on how much is proposed to be utilized. And when I say the following slide, the one I'm already at right now. So looking at the historical recapture, the district is proposing to utilize just shy of $892,000 of the COVID-19 grant to offset operational costs in 2020 and losses. Some of the losses specifically relate to the 25% water reductions that council approved back in June. Council provided a 25% rate reduction for all agricultural users, as well as residential and commercial and industrial water for the months of July and August. So the total lost revenues because of that decision were $294,000. Additionally, the district is anticipating that lost recreation revenues due to COVID for 2020 will equate to approximately $336,000. We're currently still in the process of putting our year end together, so these numbers in this item could fluctuate a little bit. Additionally, the district incurred increased cleaning supply costs, PP&E of $224,600 is what we're estimating in 2020. So again, utilizing these COVID funds to offset those costs, and an additional $46,000 in IT enhancements for staff to be able to work from home, new computers, those types of things. So the total there, it comes out to the $892,000. From the forward-thinking approach, the district, again, as noted earlier in this presentation, we are not anticipating our revenues to bounce back to pre-COVID until at least 2023. So with that being said, we are anticipating lost recreation revenues to continue, and we've budgeted for approximately $249,000 of lost revenues due to COVID in our recreation department. An additional item is the budget being brought forward is taking into account using $24,500 of COVID grant funding to pay 2 grants in aid to not-for-profits who are providing services to vulnerable peoples. And that is an eligible expense under the conditions of this funding. On the capital side, we're looking at IT improvements in the amount of $150,000, upgrading the council chamber audiovisual systems at $75,000, and replacing the municipal hall sliding doors at a cost of $35,000 to reduce touch points for COVID. So this proposal leaves approximately $1.2 million of funding unallocated to cover unforeseen losses and expenditures. As the mayor noted in her opening, we began the budget process with a deficit of over $1.4 million. When staff met with council on October 16th, the deficit had decreased to $356,633. And today, it is at $151,626, which requires a 1.65% property tax revenue increase in order to balance the budget. When we compare the proposed 2021 budget to the original pre-COVID 2020 budget, there's an overall increase of $346,900, which equates roughly to 2.12%. Of this increase, $250,000 is directly attributed to operational increases, while the remaining $96,900 is attributed to budgeted reserve transfers. When putting together annual budgets, departments always begin with a status quo budget. This means that the base budget from the previous year is maintained, with the only increases due to contractual obligations. As you can see, the district's contractual increases alone were $334,134. This is before any additional service level increases or additional projects or FTE requests, and equates to a 3.64% tax rate increase. Looking more closely at third-party increases, our insurance premiums have increased by $25,000. RCMP contract and RCMP retro payments have increased by $33,000. Our transit contract has increased $9,150. Garbage collection, hazardous materials, and landfill scale contract increases equate to $81,700. And our janitorial contract has increased $22,450. Now, this includes additional cleaning due to COVID-19 that is being funded through the COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant. Contractually and bylaw increases, these increases take into account salary increases, QP increases, and the like. So those increases are $157,814. The proposed budget includes additions of approximately $750,000 of new projects and FTE requests. Approximately 50% of these additions are related to FTE requests. This proposed budget includes the addition of 3.8 FTEs, one of which is temporary term position for 18 months. The additional requests are for a full-time IT support technician. So with this position, COVID has highlighted the reliance all workplaces have on their IT systems. As we have navigated through this pandemic, it has become increasingly clear that our IT systems require increased attention. The position will help the district bridge the large gap we currently face in our technological capacities. The second position is a part-time corporate services assistant. The corporate services assistant is an exempt, confidential, 0.4 FTE position at 14 hours per week. This position will support council, the CAO, and the corporate services department. Duties will include the preparation of confidential and general correspondence, council committee meetings, committee appointment tracking and corresponding paperwork, assisting the CAO and council with scheduling of meetings, conferences, events, and the corresponding administrative paperwork. This position will also provide support to the procurement and contract administration function. The next position is a full-time firefighter. The district currently employs 4 full-time firefighters, with the rest of the force augmented by auxiliary firefighters who are all paid on call. This model has been in place since 2006 and has served the district adequately. However, in recent years, it's becoming increasingly difficult for the department to function in a normal capacity. The department continues to see a reduction of available auxiliary firefighters for daytime calls. On average, only 35.7% of auxiliary firefighters attended daytime calls in 2020. Additionally, the average response time of the fire department has increased from 9 minutes and 25 seconds in 2008 to 12 minutes and 38 seconds in 2020. This new firefighter position will also assist in conducting fire inspections, maintaining fire equipment, responding to calls, assisting in fire suppression, and assisting in public education, just to name a few. The next position is a part-time bylaw enforcement officer at 2 days per week or 14 hours. So the intent of the part-time bylaw enforcement officer is to help provide a higher customer service level in our bylaw enforcement department. With the grant from the province last year, the district had an additional COVID/park ambassador during our summer peak season to help with active enforcement patrols, provide a presence in our park and beach areas, and allowed us to extend service over the weekend. The district saw several benefits from this additional resource in the bylaw enforcement area and would like to create a permanent part-time role to continue that service. Hours will be increased over peak seasons and reduced over the winter months. Additionally, this will allow for bylaw enforcement coverage potentially at night and over the weekend. Further, this position will be able to cover off the existing bylaw enforcement officer for training opportunities, sick time, and vacation time to ensure that the district always has a bylaw enforcement presence and can respond to complaints in a timely fashion. The final position is an 18-month term position and is for an environmental services engineering tech. The district has been working with the Ministry of Environment over the past few years in order to achieve compliance within our solid waste operations. As has been documented, these compliance issues, although not vast in number, do require a significant amount of staff time to bring the district into compliance. For this to occur and to provide additionally needed departmental resources, Council has supported the hiring of a full-time term engineering technician. This position will help move specific compliance projects forward and will support solid waste operations. The position is an 18-month term position, and once the term has been fulfilled, the position will be removed from the operational budget. Those positions, so the 3.8 FTEs, add an additional $385,000 to the district's budget, operating budget. In terms of the various projects, there are numerous projects that have been incorporated into this budget. However, just to provide some highlights, the district has budgeted $50,000 for asset retirement audit work. There are new standards now that are being brought in by the Accounting Standards Board, and the district is required to comply with those standards. There's $20,000 budgeted for some GIS specialty consultant work. An increase of $18,500 to the health and safety consulting budget. The Works Department has 4 projects that total $61,500. And the landfill has 9 new or updated projects for a total of $133,400. That's just to summarize, again, the larger projects. So what does this all mean? In order to balance the budget, Council is proposing a tax increase of 1.65%. This would equate to a $22.07 increase to the average assessed home that's assessed at $591,790 in 2021. When we look at the district's 2021 general municipal property taxes, the budget takes into account a total of just under $10 million in taxes. As we can see from the pie chart, 86% or $8.5 million is being generated from residential properties, with businesses coming in at 9%, which is the second largest item, or $891,000. The Class 9 farms are bringing taxation revenue of $208,636. And just to note on that one, 1.5% of that, or $154,500, is specifically attributed to the research station alone. So the remaining $54,000 is in relation to the remainder of the Class 9 farms. When we look at the overall tax bill for residences, there are those taxes that the district generates and gets to keep to provide services to the residents of Summerland. And there are those taxes that are required to collect and remit to other taxing jurisdictions. Now, as the majority of these third-party jurisdictions are still in the process of approving their budgets for 2021 and their tax rates, this slide shows the overall tax burden for the average Summerland home assessed at last year's average, which was $596,700. $1,600. So as we can see from the pie chart, 54% or $1,685 of this home's tax bill was retained by the district. The remaining $1,404 was remitted to other taxing jurisdictions, with the largest amount being $1,003 for school taxes. Over the past few years, the district has invested significant resources, and thankfully, the majority has been 100% grant funded in order to make significant strides in asset management practices. We are by no means finished this process. However, the work that has been done has set a good base in helping council determine how much funding the district requires to fund future capital replacement, as many of the district's assets are long-lived and nearing or at end of life. When we look at funding capital infrastructure, it can be broken out into four main funding sources: reserves, grants, community contributions, and debt. Now, based on the 5-year financial plan that's being proposed, reserves are budgeted to go from $15.4 million in 2021 to $8.9 million in 2025. The slide on the screen now tries to capture council's overall commitment to asset management, specifically in the general fund. As we can see, the current budget being proposed has reserve transfers of $1.823 million going into reserves. The breakdown of that is $825,000 being transferred into the fleet reserve to help fund future fleet. Into the capital works reserve, $750,000. The landfill, $192,000. That contribution comes directly from the Recycled BC payments that the district receives annually. And then there's an annual fire contribution of $50,000 and approximately a $7,700 transfer into the climate action reserve. So council is doing its part in ensuring that capital projects of the future can be built and sustained. When we look at borrowing, the first line there, borrowing is for capital projects. That's what the district uses borrowing for. Our outstanding debt as of January 1st, 2021 is $13.4 million. Now, people might want to know that our annual debt payments are $1.99 million annually. So as of right now, the district is utilizing 23.8% of our borrowing capacity. And looking ahead into the next 2 years, we are proposing to borrow $11.4 million for 2 projects specifically. The first one being Giants Head Road. That would include the water infrastructure. That's an $8 million project. And the Eisentalk Dam outlet pipe and slope protection. That's a $3.4 million project, straddling the years of 2021 and 2022. So looking at the capital fund and the funding sources, we can see that transfers from reserves and grants are pretty much neck and neck when it comes to funding sources, $8.45 million and $8.41 million, with debt coming in at $2 million, contributions of $457,000, and some accumulated surplus transfers of just $338,000. So this pie chart just shows the funding sources for the $21 million capital fund. So as this slide notes, the district's proposed capital spend in 2021 is $21 million. There are numerous projects that make up this total. The 9 projects identified provide a summary of the major projects budgeted for in 2021. And I will provide some summaries here on each of the projects. So the solar and battery storage project, as most Summerland residents are probably aware, the Summerland solar and battery storage project involves the development of a 1 megawatt solar array with a 2 megawatt energy storage battery. The project cost is estimated at $6.98 million, of which $6 million will come from grant funding through the Gas Tax Special Priorities Fund, and the district's $980,000 portion coming from the Electrical Utility Capital Reserve. Site selection has been finalized and the design RFP process is underway, with the budgeted spend in 2021 at $4.29 million. The next line, mobile fleet replacement. The district is budgeting for the replacement of 23 pieces of equipment in 2021. These replacements vary from work trucks to specialized sewer flush truck. Primary funding for these replacements will come from the Equipment Replacement Reserve, which is fully funded. Eisentalk Dam, we touched on that briefly. This is a $3.4 million project that is budgeted over 2 years and 100% funded by debt. The project consists of replacing the low-level outlet pipe, including inlet and outlet concrete structures, gate control structure, as well as erosion control on the front face of the dam. This project requires environmental permitting, fish recovery, and geotechnical consultation. And the existing pipe is near 100 years old and is leaking significantly. The pipe is about 100 meters long and almost 20 meters deep, which will require a very large excavation. Failure will have serious flood inundation consequences, as well as the loss of vital source of water for Summerland and surrounding areas. The replacement of these components will provide flood resilience in the dam and its infrastructure, bring the structure up to current dam safety standards, and provide water security to the district for many, many years. The organics processing facility. To bring the landfill composting operations into compliance, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve diversion, the district is in the process of designing and constructing an organics processing facility. The total project budget is $2.371 million, of which 2/3 is funded through organics infrastructure funding grant. The organics processing facility will enable the district to move forward with agricultural and residential food scrap removal from curbside collection, as well as the landfill. This diverted material will be used to create a nutrient-rich Class A compost for agricultural and residential use. And this project also goes over the 2 years, so 2021 and 2022. Emergency response. The district is continuing to move forward with repairs caused by flooding. Repairs to the pathway at Peach Orchard Beach and Rotary Beach were started in 2020 and will continue into 2021. Repairs to Gartrell Trail were previously completed. However, additional repairs will be required in 2021. Repairs to Lakeshore Drive as well as Eneas Creek have also been identified. Estimated recoverable expenses from disaster financial assistance as well as grants are budgeted at $1.359 million, with the district share being $331,450. Municipal facilities. So the district has budgeted 15 projects on its facilities in 2021. These projects range from completing existing projects like the installation of EV chargers, as well as the renovation of the arts and cultural building, to replacing the museum roof and HVAC units, replacing the HVAC units at Municipal Hall and the Works Office, as well as replacing the front doors of Municipal Hall to eliminate public touch points, which we briefly touched on when we talked about the COVID-19 restart grant. The district is proposing a voltage conversion within the electric utility to bring the utility in alignment with industry practice. This would make the system more efficient and reliable, and it would also provide more resilient energy with increased capability to withstand extreme weather and increased resiliency against single points of failure. Once complete, the voltage conversion will provide energy efficiency gains of around 5% and reduced wholesale service fees and charges of approximately 15%. Grant funding of $684,800 has been applied for, and the district is awaiting a response from the provincial government. The district's share of this phase of the project is approximately $500,000, of which a portion will be funded by upgrades to existing services. Water main replacements. So the district has budgeted to fix the water main on Canyon View Road in 2021. Preliminary design work will be completed in February to compare two options. Option one being replacing 1,000 meters of existing water main along the current alignment, or option two, realignment. The district will need to obtain legal utility easements at the rear of the properties that front Canyon View Road in order to accommodate that water main. There will be an installation of about 1,200 to 1,400 meters of new main in order to abandon the current water main in Canyon View Road, Paradise Road, and McGee Street. Both options will include full road reconstruction of Canyon View Road, Paradise Road, and McGee Street. So 3 roads will be part of this project. If the replacement option is selected, construction is expected to occur between May and July. And if the realignment option is selected, because we are required to establish the legal easements, it will delay construction to between August and October. And the final item on, not the final capital project, but the final one on this slide is the Giants Head Trail, phases 3 and 4. In 2020, phases 1 and 2 of this trails project were completed. The district has submitted a grant application that would provide 73.33% funding, or $1.234 million, in order to complete phases 3 and 4 of the Giants Head Trail, with the district share being approximately $449,000. The major components of this project include upper circulation road paving and connecting pedestrian trails, upgrade existing upper parking lot washroom, park entrance washroom and servicing down at the lower parking lot, the grind route from the upper parking lot to the top of the mountain, Indigenous interpretive signage, brush removal and fire hazard remediation work, as well as wayfinding improvements for bikes. The project is budgeted at $1.682 million and is proposed to be built in over 2021 and 2022. So with all that being said, the question on everyone's mind is, what does this mean to me, the average Summerland resident? The slide in front of us tries to take all of these impacts into account. When we look at the average assessment for 2021, based on the current data we have from BC Assessment, the average home is assessed at $591,790. So when we take that and we transition that into the 1.65% proposed tax rate increase, we see an increase of $22.07 annually, or $1.84 monthly. As we discussed around the garbage rates, this budget takes into account a $2.35 per month increase in garbage rates effective March 1st, 2021. That, as it's March, that's 10 months, so a $23 increase over the year, which annually equates to about $1.96 increase on the average. The water, the sewer, and the electrical rates were all discussed at the open house back in November, but we're the typical home would see a $40 increase in their water rates, $14 increase in sewer rates, and a $54 increase in electrical rates. So overall, on the annual, a home would see approximately $153 increase annually, or $12.83 monthly. One thing I would like to note on this slide are these are the gross amounts. So as the public is aware, the district does have a 10% discount on utilities if they're paid by the due date. So the last four items, garbage rates, water rates, sewer rates, and electrical rates, if the typical individual was paying their bills on time, they would see a 10% reduction off of those amounts. So the actual increase would lower from $153 annually to $140 annually if those discounts were applied and taken advantage of each and every month. So this concludes our virtual 2021 to 2025 financial plan open house. We will shortly open the session up for any questions that any attendees may have. However, before we do this, I'd like to take a quick moment to encourage residents that have not already done so to provide their comments regarding the proposed 2021 budget to the email on the screen, budget@summerland.ca. Everyone's comments are important, and they will provide council with additional information prior to the financial plan bylaw adoption, which is scheduled for 4 p.m. on Friday, February 26th. We do ask that in order for comments to be included in the final budget report, that we receive these comments no later than 12 noon on Monday, February 15th. To date, we have received 14 comments from the public, all of which are in support of creating pickleball courts at Peach Orchard Campground in 2021, which, as we all know, is in the capital plan for 2021. So again, I thank you for attending, and I will now have our moderator maybe get everyone live, and I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll open the floor up for any questions. Now I just got to figure out how to do this. Did that work? Oh, I gotta press this button. Okay, did that work? So are there any questions from anyone that is attending this meeting? Yeah. If you could turn either your video on or raise your hand or just turn your microphone on. We'll wait a couple minutes, and if not, then we will probably just call it a day.
Hello.
Mr.
John.
Gordon.
Sorry about the lights. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay. First of all, I'm kind of disappointed about the number of people that are attending the public hearing. I mean, there's 23 participants, which, you know, kind of concerns me because it's a pretty important time of year, important for you people to get feedback into the operation of the city, or the municipality rather. And I have looked back at a few council meetings, and I see that they typically draw a crowd of maybe 40 people, 60 people, And my guess is that most of that is related to development or variances and stuff like that. So my comment would be that I think it's really important in COVID times that city staff and the city council get together and try and find ways to get more people involved in the process. It's ridiculous that a handful of people should be called upon to provide input into helping you manage this town of ours. So I think that should be a high priority on the list of council and of staff to encourage more participation by the residents of the town. That's number one. A couple other things. I did look back at I was looking for the figures that were going into the budget this year. And I did make a request and received from David, I think, the budgets that were presented at the meetings back in January. I think it was the 13th, 20th, and another one. And there was a conversation during one of those council meetings. Some people actually do go back and watch them. I was one. And it was about public washrooms or the upgrading of washrooms. It's one of the items in the capital plan this year. And I'm a hiker. And sometimes when it's too snowy or icy to hike in Summerland, we go other places. And one of the places we were recently was Peachland. And Peachland, of course, has their big long path along the beach there. And they have three, in the space of about, I'd say about 3 kilometers, they have 3 beautiful, clean, heated washrooms that they manage very well. And they're open from 9 o'clock until, I don't know, I think maybe 5 or 6 o'clock daily. So we definitely need to do something like that here in Summerland. And it was discussed at that meeting, but I'm just providing more encouragement for us to go forward and do something about washrooms. I mean, lots of people, as I said, I hike, there's always lots of people out there using the not only the trails, but the beach walks, the beach walk in Summerland, the Memorial Park, for example, another one. I think that to provide really great facilities and to take care of them really well would really put is really an important thing for a town like ours that wants to attract tourists perhaps, and also to provide excellent facilities for the people that live here. So those are a couple things. I also I thought it would be important in the budget discussion. It might happen in the background in the discussions that take place, but it'd be kind of interesting to see if how Summerland compares to other municipalities in the Okanagan in terms of their tax rates. And maybe that's a way of getting people more interested in what's going on. I mean, if our rates are too low, maybe it provides an opportunity for council to get more. And if our rates are too high, then I think the people in the municipality should be aware of that, so that they can maybe help to understand the reason for those things. And anyway, tax rates, I just think it'd be important to have a comparison from time to time to see where they are. So my third item, I'm afraid it's my pet peeve. I live on Milne Road, and my backyard is Giants Head Mountain. So back in 2018, when the first bench report came out, I went to the public hearing or public meeting rather, and saw the presentation. And I could never understand why we had to spend $1.5 million improving what I thought was a pretty great place already. But nevertheless, it was something that went ahead there, at least phases 1 and 2 did. And I'm kind of disappointed with the outcome. I know that people have 2 opinions on it. I mean, I think that there's some issues up there. Many of the trails that were supposed to be decommissioned, well, almost all the trails that were supposed to be decommissioned are being used and have been since the since the project began or ended because of a lack of signage, which was apparently deleted from the phases 1 and 2 and only added on as 1 and 2 went over budget. So that was a bit of a disappointment. And then there was a trail that was basically the downhill bike path that was basically rejected by the bike community because of the way it was built. And so that was kind of disappointing. And then also the other thing that may have been deleted from the first 1 and 2, I'm not sure, but it was weed control. And the weeds up there were exploding last year. And in 2021, there's going to be issues there as well. So I kind of a little disappointed with that, but I see there's a lot of money in the budget for 2021 and after. And I thought it was kind of interesting that council, they actually made application for 1.2 million in funding, in grant funding, and I think 480,000 in council funds were going to, or municipal funds are going to be used to do what was called phase 3 and 4. Well, I sort of look back at the bench thing, and I see that in the bench original estimate, phases 3 and 4 were only going to cost $570,000, and I'm kind of going, well, if we're spending like $1 million more than that, maybe it's about time to have another public meeting and discuss what exactly is going on up there. Because again, I can't really see why we would spend the original thing, but here we are spending another 1.6 million, or proposing to, without any public input that I can see at all, which is quite frankly ridiculous. It sounds to me like something's going to happen, and maybe the people that live in the community aren't going to be involved. I don't know. Anyway, that's me. That's all I got to say. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time you're putting into the whole budget process, and I'll write my comments to council and to staff before the 15th. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your comments, John. And yes, I would greatly appreciate if you could get those into writing for me. This way we'd have a written record. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else on the line that has any questions? Based on the attendees, I would anticipate Tish would probably be the only non-municipal employee outside of John right now that is currently on the call.
Hi. Can I, everybody? Okay, hi. Yeah, I don't really have a question. I just have a comment. And I'm not overly savvy with budget protocol and municipalities and whatnot, but I've taken notice to it, particularly this year, only because I got the notice that utilities were increasing. And then I got the notice that property taxes were increasing. Groceries are increasing. Gas is increasing. My insurance is increasing. My house insurance is increased. My car insurance is increased. People are running out of CERB payments. People are being forced home due to the pandemic for isolation and whatnot. I'm not sure now is the time to be upgrading washrooms when everything else around us is sort of not going so well for us living here in the city. I know that, I mean, facilities need to be upgraded and money needs to be spent, but I'm just not sure 2021 is the time to do it on things like trails and washrooms. I know the first element felt differently, but I don't share the sentiment. And that's all. It's not a question, just a comment.
Well, thank you for your comment, Tish. Well, if there are no other questions and or comments, I Again, I would like to thank everyone for attending today's virtual open house. And as noted, please send your comments into budget@summerland.ca prior to noon on February 15th so that we can incorporate your comments into the final report that will be going to council. So again, thank you and good night.